It's our great pleasure to invite to the stage Gary and Jamie.
Hi guys, wow. So we had a list of subjects and we were talking earlier, and I think if it's okay with you guys, we'd rather this be more of a conversation, more than just between the two of us. So if you guys have questions or comments or ideas, feel free to shout them out, or I'm not sure I'll be able to see anybody waving their hand in the back. But so anyway, I guess I'll start off since I've been jabbering so far. I'm Gary Fish. I founded Deschutes Brewery in Bend in 1988. We started just as a little brew pub. My background was the restaurant business. I'm not a brewer. And we started it in a cool little recovering timber town that was suffering from an enormous recession. And all our business plan looked for at that time was to make a successful, fairly small restaurant that made good beer and good food. And we calculated that we could have a pretty decent life at that. Thinking that craft beer would grow, well, we didn't call it craft beer at the time, microbrewery beer. But not really understanding the role we would take in that growth, and not understanding or anticipating any form of manufacturing and sale organization like we have today. So we are happy to be here. We're happy to be at the right place at the right time. And Jamie, how about you?
Okay, my name is Jamie Danek, CEO and co-founder of Humm Kombucha. That started in 2008, and our purpose was to help people feel better. It was the middle of a recession in Bend, and I just moved there from the East Coast, and the town was a bit of a mess. Every other house was for sale, and downtown was quite boarded up, and we were drinking this kombucha, my partner and I, Michelle, at the kitchen table, trying to figure out what kind of business we were going to get into. And we were stoked all the time. We were laughing. We didn't have jobs. We didn't have any income. We were like, oh my God, do you think it's the kombucha? We got to get this out to everybody. And that started this, the 2010 version of the Milkman was the Kombucha Man delivery service out of the Prius. And that's today, that's still what we're all about. Yeah, we're a little bit bigger, and yeah, we're growing, and then we're all about making people feel better, trying to help people feel better. Yeah.
Okay, so we were given a list of potential topics to talk about. As I said, if you guys have other things you'd rather talk about, let us know, because we can chime in on most things, even if we don't know what we're talking about. But Jamie and I have known each other for some time. I actually serve on her board, and it's been so much fun watching the dynamics of a new industry that I think was at the moment where the paradigm shifted in non-alcoholic beverages, as I believe we were at that moment when the paradigm shifted with beer. And luck and timing is the best thing you could ever have for a business to succeed. Skill and a propensity for really hard work doesn't hurt, but where were you at that moment? I mean, where is non-alcoholic beverages going?
There's a lot of room for non-alcoholic beverages to go, but this is something that we talked about. We talk about a lot, is that this collaboration, this founder-to-founder mentoring and helping each other. I mean, I remember when we were in the kitchen, nobody knew us. Nobody even knew what kombucha was. And we were calling on Deschutes Brewery to ask questions. And it didn't matter who we called. People picked up the phone, their head brewer, like these really important people. We were like two girls in a kitchen, and they were picking up the phone. And then it just continued on. And then I met Gary, and I think that my business probably has gone light years faster because of the collaboration and because of the experience that you bring to our table. You go, God, I wish I could have done it. Man, I wish I would have known this back then. And I'm like, I'm so sorry you didn't. I'm going to take that. I'm going to put that in my pocket, and I'm going to use that for my future, for my company.
The things you learned, the things that you would do if you would have known better. But Jamie's absolutely right. We kind of the concept of pay it forward is really clear to us at Deschutes Brewery. We solicited advice and information from a lot of our peers in the industry. And, when we were getting going, it was truly kind of David and Goliath, the smallest of the small. And then, Anheuser-Busch and Miller Coors kind of ruled everything, including retail. They control the shelf sets. They do all that kind of stuff. And so really, the opportunity, we were literally all in this together to try and, if we could get to 1% market share, we thought we'd be just cruising. Now we're at, craft beer nationally is in the 10% range. It keeps changing because depending upon how you want to define craft brewery with all the acquisitions and everything else, people are entering and leaving. But substantially more, people know who we are, why we're there, all that kind of stuff. But it really is a matter of, we got a lot of great advice from a lot of our peers, and we rarely will ever turn down a good question. It has to be something pretty proprietary for us to even think about that.
And I think that the craft brewers have a really interesting, it's very unique. Industries aren't generally like that. We're not all super friendly. In the kombucha industry, even so, I have to listen to you over and over and over again to collaborate, to share information, because nobody's said we're all in competition. Everybody feels like they're in competition with each other. The thing is, when you're in an industry that is like less than 1% of the whole category, our competitors are energy drinks and soda and iced teas and all these types of things. And kombucha's like this big. So alone, we're like teeny, 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 tiny. Together, we're like, a microscopic chip. And it's really hard when you're building a business to not want to not collaborate. It's human nature.
We used to joke a lot. I was one of the founding members of the Oregon Brewers Guild. I was one of the founding board members when the Brewers Association was created from a merger of the Brewers Association of America and the Association of Brewers. I know, it's a lot of, that's what we thought too. I think we had 3% market share and we have 2 trade associations. Nah, probably not a good idea. We have to figure out how to get past this. But we were all very much in that, and we'd go to a meeting. The Oregon Brewers Guild was classic. Jerome Chikvara, who was one of the founding partners of Full Sail, at the end of every meeting, we have this great meeting, do all this, what we thought was great work for the industry, and he turned around, I'm going to go out and, now I'm going to go out and steal some of your business. It's like, all right, see you later. The marketplace is a competitive place. There's no question about it. And we all compete. Hopefully we compete fairly and according to the rules of the game or the law of the land, as the case may be. But when we're not doing that, we're reaching out and engaging a consumer that benefits us all. And we are all harmed if someone isn't making good beer. We were, growing up with such small market share.
Somebody's clapping.
I didn't catch that, but I'm not giving any names. So, but if we weren't all succeeding, none of us was going to succeed. We were going to be far stronger together than any one of us could have been individually, and that drove us for the last 30 years.
Yeah, and I think you have to lead by example, right? You have to be the one that is collaborating. You have to be the one in the kombucha industry. I think we are one of the only, if the only, kombucha brewery that gives tours, public tours, to any kombucha brewer. We have people that travel all over the world to come to Bend, Oregon to tour the brewery, because many breweries still will not tour their breweries. It's getting better and better, but it's leading by example, and it's listening to this one over and over, hearing these stories and going, this is okay to do it this way, because it's really the only way to help the whole industry. When you're in this industry, the only way to help it grow, especially when you're tiny.
Yeah, obviously, there are competitive issues, and I'll look to the current generation of craft brewers out there now. It's much harder to find leaders to rise up from the group. These people are really smart. They're good at business, but they're busy, and they think, I don't know whether it's a most of these people are kind of beyond the millennials. They're Gen X or whatever the next one up is. But, you know, getting them to be engaged and to take a leadership position is a challenge. They don't feel the need like we did at the time, and maybe we've become victims of our own success. But it is something that I think is really essential. Even Anheuser-Busch and Miller Coors collaborate. They have a trade association called the Beer Institute. It's a lobbying group. It's a cover.
I strike it.
Yes.
Well,
the Beer Institute has one lobbyist in Washington, D.C. Anheuser-Busch alone has 40. You tell me what it is.
But I think that it really leads to, you know, how many people here are like starting a business or in the process of starting a business? It's really freaking hard to start a business. It's your own person, like your insecurities, like everything that you've got going on comes out when you start a business, and having the mentors and the people that have been through it before and the guides, and also being that, paying it forward. You're laughing.
Yeah, how many of you who raise your hands have to explain every day what it is you do to people who have no idea? Yeah, I mean, get over it. It's going to last for a while. You know, it's what you do, and there's, like I said, being smart and having a propensity for really hard work is, I think, a key characteristics.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really hard work. Did we have to make a lot of sacrifices? Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there were a lot of paydays where I didn't get paid.
Yeah.
You know, there were a lot of time. I mean, I was very lucky that we were doing this in a small town, and we lived, you know, 5-10 minutes from where I worked, so that, you know, the rule in our house, my wife stayed home with the kids, and the rule, you know, I could get up in the middle of the night to go to work. That was fine, as long as I was home for dinner. And there were a lot of days that I wasn't home for dinner, and I did a lot of traveling. There was, you know, I mean, it's you know, when they say it's a 24/7 job, it really is. You just don't turn it off. You can set it aside at times so that you can have a conversation with people who care about you, but it never shuts down. I mean, it's always humming.
And that's good. And I think too that it doesn't last forever. I probably have had more peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and bean and rice burritos in the last 7 years than I care to remember, even though I still like this food, which I'm grateful for. But it doesn't last forever. I don't think that you go through these struggles. Your struggles change over time. So if you're in a place where it's really challenging, yes, it'll be challenging in that place for a period of time, and then there'll be new challenges, and that challenge might go away, and your next challenge might be something else. But I mean, it does go on and on. I mean, when people look at my schedule and they're like, wow, you're traveling all over. It's so cool. It must be amazing. And, you know, at 3 a.m. when you're trying to catch the 5 o'clock out of Redmond to get anywhere, you know, it's not that fun. You know, you're waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning every day to catch a flight, and it's just what you do.
Waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning in New York when it's midnight here to catch the 5 o'clock. Yeah.
Because you only had to be there a day for a meeting or whatever it might look like. But that's how it looks today. You know, 4 years ago, it was the PB&Js. I was making $8 an hour. The only reason I got a raise is because I couldn't find anybody to work for $8 an hour anymore. So I paid them $9, so I made $9. So, you know, the sacrifices, there's tons of them. But the reward of doing what you love and doing this thing where you're constantly trying to explain whatever it is that's in your heart that you're so passionate about that you just, like, you can't stop talking about it. That is,
there is
all the
a
PB&Js in the
genetic
world for that.
predisposition, I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
So, best part of running a company in Bend and the worst part of running a company in Bend.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
Well, the best part about running a company in Bend is that you're in Bend. The worst part about running a company in Bend is that you're in Bend. I mean, I'm serious. We were talking about this a little bit. I picked Jamie. I drove over the mountain, and Jamie was flying in from San Francisco, so I picked her up at the airport on my way in. And we were talking about this, and it's like, Bend is a tough place to be in business. you know, it's a 3-hour drive to the first interstate freeway. And we bring in, you know, we're sending out 50 trucks a week. And it's just, it's tough. You know, starting next month, the Christmas tree industry kicks in. Try to get a truck heading to the East Coast from Bend in the month of December.
The rates go up like 60% or something in this.
Oh, it's
4-week
crazy,
period.
if you can get a truck. So.
Okay, so I would say the best thing about being in Bend, while I agree with all this, is the people and the support, and that they love local products and they support the weird, the new, the different, the innovative, and the amount of people that are there that just want to help, like Gary and hundreds of others. And then the worst part of being in Bend is that you're in Bend. It's impossible, virtually impossible to build anything. The city is challenging, beyond challenging to work with. It takes longer and is more expensive than, I think we're like top 5 in the country of longer and more expensive to build or get anything done from a construction standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, I'll second that the people are the best. I mean, that's the best part about being in Bend. There's nobody there that doesn't want to be there. Everybody
That's
who
true.
is in Bend wants to be in Bend because they had to do something, give up something, make something happen in order to get there. And very few people who were born at, my kids are a perfect example, born and raised in Bend. They're locals, I'm not. And they left. They didn't want to be adults in Bend. And you know, both of them went to college. One went to U of O, one went to University of San Francisco, and they're all pursuing careers elsewhere. And you know, love the brewery business, but don't want to be involved if it means being in Bend.
Mm.
So, you know, you have that side as well. So,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
ma'am. Small company building out a board. We have 2 different experiences. Maybe Jamie, you go first.
All right. Mine is, when we were looking to do a board, it was about, we needed expertise in areas that we didn't know things about. So we targeted certain types of people that had certain types of experience, like somebody in beverage, somebody that knew something about mergers and acquisitions, like the things that we were looking for, maybe somebody that could just introduce us to a lot of people and had a lot of credibility. And then we went around and interviewed them. I have a hilarious story. I don't even know if you remember this. The best story about Gary was somebody said, hey, what about Gary Fish? And I'm like, oh, that'd be great. And they're like, all right, well, you got to sign him up. And I said, well, I haven't met him yet. And they're like, but it's Gary Fish. And I'm like, oh, really? No, I have to meet him. And so he came to the brewery, and we started, and I'm like, if I like him, cool. But if I don't like him, I know he's cool and he's done really cool things. But if he doesn't fit for me and my company, it's not going to matter. And so he walked in. Do you remember this? Do you remember that story? And he walks in. And we start talking. I'm like, so apparently, like, you're Gary Fish, and I'm supposed to say yes if you want to join the board. And he's like, you got to be kidding me. And I'm like, yeah, that's what I was told. And then we ended up talking for a couple hours. I'm like, you're really cool. We should probably do this. And he's like, oh.
I remember Jim Schell, who's
right.
Jamie's the chair of the board, who I've known for a long, long time. He called me and asked me, you know, if I'd be interested in serving on a board. I said, you know, I'm really not looking for any more boards or anything. It's Humm Kombucha. It's like, ooh, kombucha. I kind of like that idea, you know. And I had this idea that being at that moment when the paradigm shifts, and you know, it's like, okay, I want to learn more.
Yeah.
And then I met Jamie and Michelle, her original partner, the 2 kombucha mamas, are, if you can't tell already, kind of infectious with their level of enthusiasm and energy. And if they get their mind set on something, don't stand in their way.
We swooned him.
So.
But it is not only do they have the right pedigree and all the things you're looking for, but they absolutely have to understand you and get you, and you have to have a synergy, because there's big decisions that come up, and there's things that you really need to get their buy-in, and they have to believe in what you're doing and really, really have that, so that they're able to help you make the right decision for you, not the right decision that they think.
Well, and I think, you know, depending upon how many you want to assemble, you've got to get some complementary skill sets too, and experiences and so forth. You don't want everybody that comes from the same industry, has done the same things. You know, you need to get, you know, whether you need to get finance, manufacturing, whatever the skill sets you
Marketing.
determine you need. My experience is a little different because to this date, we still don't have an official fiduciary board. We're a very closely held corporation. My family owns almost 90% of the stock still. We have a small allocation to an ESOP. But I met my Peter principal some time ago. And so we've really been hiring, and our senior staff has been operating as kind of our operating board for a long time. But we've put together an advisory board, which is kind of the first step. There are 3 members besides myself on that board. One is a old college friend of mine who owns a very large food brokerage. And the other is one of our person who used to own our largest distributorship before he sold, so that resolved his conflict. And the other is a finance, M&A, private equity guy that understands the world outside of our brewery in ways that I never could. And we're still looking. We think if we came upon the right person that really understood marketing and that fit per Jamie's comments, I could see us potentially adding a person with that skill set to that group as well. And then, depending upon how things roll out in the next couple of years, the idea of converting that board to a full fiduciary board has always been on the table.
Yeah. I would also say start small, like really small. A couple voices is great, and then a lot of voices gets really loud.
Yeah,
Yeah,
managing that number is tough. I've been on boards, I've been on lots of nonprofit boards. Most of them are dysfunctional, but I've been on a number of other private industry boards, and managing the number correctly is really important. And I start small. Adding is easy, subtracting is hard.
Yep.
So there was a question over here. Yeah.
Okay. It was an 18-month BAM, so it was a very long process before everybody else saw it. But it was really, for us, it's all about the why. And it's all about why do you do what you do, and why on earth would you take this cool little company called Kombucha Mama and turn it into this big national brand. So for us, it's about helping people feel better, and we were watching all these people in Bend start to feel really good and really get jazzed about this product. And then Bend, there's a lot of people that come visit, so they would come from all over, and people would start asking us, call us, when are you going to be here? When are you going to be there? Oh, yeah, we'll be there one day. And then we were like, really? Are we going to be there? And it's about making people feel better. You see a small community that feels really good, and you're like, wow, who are we to step in the way of this brand? We should offer this to the world. Everybody should have an option to feel better. There was nothing on the market that tasted like our product at the time or had the kind of authenticity. And so that was the impetus behind it. And so we had no interest in changing our name. We just went to a local advertising agency to help us with our packaging. We were in beer bottles, hence the help of Deschutes. We had twist tops, we were in 24 packs. We had a lot of issues with our packaging and our product. And they said, would you be interested in changing your name? And we said that was the dumbest idea we ever heard. And then 6 months later, we changed our name. Because Kombucha Mama was about 2 girls in a kitchen with big dreams. Humm is about a much bigger thing. It's about an energy. It's about people hum when they're happy. It's about the hum. It's about, yeah. So that's why we did it. And then we brought in a lot of help. So at that time, it was me and Michelle and a handful of people. When we moved to Humm, we actually spent more money on the branding than we made in a year, and got some money in, got some investors, and then also brought in some help, right? We brought in some people that really, really understood how to scale a business so that they could help us grow it. Yeah. Yep.
How about way up there in the corner?
Sorry, you're next, because I know you keep raising your hand. He's ignoring you. But I won't.
I saw on the Deschutes website you're working with the Deschutes River Conservancy, you're using LED
have a ton of sustainability initiatives. The list is quite long. I think you can probably go on our website and see most of what we're doing. Water is something that's always been really important to us. We're named for the Deschutes River. The brewery sits on the Deschutes River. It's something that's very important to us. I've been on the board of the Freshwater Trust here in Portland for 12 years now. We have members who are on the board of the Deschutes River Conservancy, and we have, that's something that needs more thoughtful people getting involved with it. We were talking about this earlier. The West was settled in a battle over water. That's not just a cliche, it's actually true, and that battle continues today. And we need more focus to be able to help solve some of these problems. When you've got a giant river like the Colorado that never gets to the ocean, can't we do better than that? Mm-hmm. And there are solutions that are coming. So I think there's a lot of stuff there. We've always looked at sustainability as just being smarter and better than we are today. We don't demagogue a lot. We try to find practical solutions that actually mean something. And whether it's changing over to LED light bulbs, or whether it's building a really cool bicycle rack that all of a sudden gives people a place where they can work on their bikes, they can fix their bikes, they can lock them up when they're at work. We get bicycle tours come through our tour and tasting facility. Recycling, all that stuff is great. We just try to use every opportunity to be better than we are today, if that makes sense.
And we do a lot with sustainability as well, but we just built a brand new brewery, and 75% of it is LEED and sustainable and all these types of things. For us, we are going so fast, we can barely catch our breath. So it's really, what do you focus on and what's really important? So when the opportunity is there, you take it. We have all the right light bulbs. We're doing all these things that we can do. And then hopefully, as we slow down at some point, which I'm sure in the near future it will happen, it'll be great to be able to pick up some of those things and take the lead on it more and have more interaction with sustainability and whatnot. But every time we have an opportunity, we grab it. We're just not out there looking for it necessarily. Maybe some people don't.
I think similar to what I was describing, we look at every opportunity as a way to improve. And a big chunk of that improvement is how sustainable is it.
Totally.
So.
Yeah. Yep.
Building a sales organization in a non-alcoholic versus an alcoholic beverage. Well, our sales organizations look very different. Mm-hmm. Because of the difference between alcoholic and non-alcoholic. Alcoholic beverages are heavily regulated, and we use almost exclusively beer distributors, which are regulated by statute, and our relationship with them in most states is regulated by statute. There are what's known as franchise laws that govern the nature of our relationship and how we would choose to move distributors. Typically there's 2 large distributors in any given market, a Miller Coors distributor and an ABI distributor. So we have that choice. So if we terminate one, we don't have very many places to turn. So, that's, and we have 60 in-field salespeople sprinkled throughout our 30-state distribution area, and we can never have enough of those people out there. But it's a big kind of difficult network to manage at times.
I think the non-alcoholic piece, without the regulation, we have a lot more flexibility. So we do use some of the beer and DSD type of distributors. We have some of the similar distributors, but we have a lot more flexibility. So we can use UNFI, we can use these larger natural beverage corporations that span the whole country. I think the difference is for refrigerated at least, there's not a sophisticated network that goes across the whole country. It's totally piecemealed everywhere. Versus with alcohol, there's a lot more lined up. Every area has, and you can actually go from one side of the country to the other and build a network. I don't think you can do that with refrigerated. We certainly weren't able to. So we have some areas that we have DSD and beer distributors. We have some Pepsi distributors. We have some natural distributors. We have a plethora. We've got a jigsaw puzzle of distributors, and we don't have near as many salespeople, but
And they can have distributors overlap territory.
That's right.
We cannot.
Yep, with certain restrictions in it, so you have a lot more
We can't
flexibility.
dual distribute in most of the U.S. Yeah. About going global? Again, we have two different stories. We're focused on the U.S. As I said, we have distribution in 30 states and the District of Columbia, so we have 20 more to go. And most of those states have most of the population base in the U.S., all up and down the eastern seaboard. We distribute in a small handful of mostly Asian Rim countries. And the reason we do that is to cut off the gray market, bootleg market. We were finding our beer is being bootlegged on a fairly regular basis to New Zealand, Australia. We've had people find our beer in Saipan, Thailand, Korea, Japan, and we found most of our beers have a 120-day shelf life. Our beer was being shipped out of Los Angeles to Mexico, put on a ship to go to Australia, where it could then be leapfrogged somewhere else. And the beer that's being shipped out of LA is not the freshest beer we have. And so by the time it got to whatever consumer was unfortunately drinking it, it was completely gone. It was so if we could set up distribution to get consumers what they really want in the best condition that we can assure, it was a better choice for us.
Yeah, and we're distributed nationally, and we are also overseas. So we think about kombucha as it's such a new industry. In the States, there's GTs who started in '94, so it's grown quite a bit, and it's been around for a while. In Europe, it's hardly even there. There's a couple of really small kombucha brewers. So we actually have a brewery in Sweden that is just going to be about 6 weeks that it's going to be up and running, and we sent product. For us, it was about spreading this stuff everywhere. And if people we didn't want to just open in Europe, but if somebody showed up that was the right partner, we would certainly have entertained it. It was one of our original investors, and so they showed up and really wanted to have this joint venture and wanted to take the Europe market and expand there. So our philosophy is everywhere. You know, we're about ubiquity, and we're about just where people are interested. What we found with a new product that nobody knows what it is, us forcing it in places where we think it makes sense, but nobody's ready for it, especially the distributor, it does terrible, and it's just a waste of time, even though we really thought that we could talk people into it and get them excited and. Way, way better when the people that show up that are really excited, they're already there, and then they can take the product and run with it.
All right.
Sweet.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.